So that's quick synopsis of what the task force is trying to accomplish. So probably in about 6 months we're going to see some of their initial work and then see what recommendations are involved as well.
And there's some specific things that we're looking to do. So we have basically 4 programs that make up $75 million for youth employment. So I'll take each of them separately. There's what's called the In-School Youth Program, which is federally funded for Workforce Investment Act funds. So these are programs that serve young people who are in high school, and the goal is to get them through high school and graduate and get them into college and the workforce. So one of the things we want to do is realign those programs through a request for proposal coming out in the next year with the Department of Education's Career and Education program, because not every young person is going to go to college, and not every young person can afford to go to college. I mean, I just looked at the cost of 4-year tuition at CUNY now is $24,000. That's a lot of money, even for a working family. So, but the Career and Education programs, not all of them, but many of them have a high graduation rate. The Community Service Society did a study that found that for African American and Latino boys, the graduation rate was like 67–68% higher than traditional schools. So something works. They connect young people who are not succeeding in traditional schools. So the nice thing about the In-School Youth Program is it has 2 years of service potentially, and that every year a young person is guaranteed a summer job. No lottery, guaranteed a summer job. So if they're in a career and technical education school, that summer job becomes an apprenticeship, a paid apprenticeship in a skill that can lead to a higher paying job. And then, eventually, if they become an auto mechanic, they make some money, they can save up money and go back to college. I mean, it's not an either or thing, but it's a question of how can we make young people productive members of the workforce? The other program is the Out-of-School Youth Program, which serves young people who are 16 to 21 and not in school and not in the workforce. And we've started conversations with the City University of New York about how to better align those programs with the community colleges. There's some really great community college programs out there, Hostos and BC Bronx Community College, as an example, that have great occupational certification programs like phlebotomist, EMT. Then again, skilled, fairly good paying jobs. And to the extent we can begin to align those programs with community colleges, we want to do. And finally, the thing that we want to do with both the Young Adult Internship Program, which, as some of you know, came out of the Center for Economic Opportunity. First of all, we're going to rename it. I guess, right? CEO signed off on it? Okay. We want to rename it, pending Center for Economic Opportunity official sign-off, to call it Job Ready. Ready standing for Reconnect, Educate, and Develop Youth. And what a young person would want to go to a program called Job Ready then, the Young Adult Internship Program, please. Right? But what we want to do is grow and both of these jobs have short-term internship. I mean, the Summer Youth Employment Program is a 6-week program. The Young Adult Internship Program is 14 weeks. So they're short interventions. The Out-of-School Youth and In-School Youth programs are a year and 2-year intervention. So these are people, the Young Adult Internship Program is what we call job-ready disconnected youth. They have a high school diploma, they may have some work experience, and with a little intervention, they can return to the workforce. What we want to do is expand the number of private sector job sites. I mean, it's great to work in a nonprofit. I mean, my first SYP job was working with 2 bridges, neighborhood houses, Lower East Side. So I'm not saying it's not a bad thing or whatever, but I think the more we expose young people to the private sector opportunities out there, the more options they will have. There's a study being done by the Wharton Business School, which we're waiting for them to give us, but some of the early findings were that the career awareness component of SYP is really a big deal. That it exposes young people to jobs that they may not have considered before. And if you think about the young people being served in the Summer Youth Employment Program, they're mostly from low-income neighborhoods. The opportunity to travel outside of the community is limited. So going to work at a law firm may be the first time they've ever stepped foot in a law firm. So we're actively trying to figure out how to increase the number of private sector job sites. So that's something that the youth board may want to be able to, and youth council can think about strategies, because we're at 30% in SYP. We had a very good meeting with the Economic Development Corporation last Friday, Kyle Kimball, and since they work with big businesses and small businesses, and they invest, they have a lot of economic leverage with these businesses. We're trying to encourage, with their help, more opportunities for private sector job placement. So, you want to talk about GenTech and what we're doing?
Sure. So one of the programs that EDC funds is a program called GenTech, which actually takes current high school juniors and seniors and spends, I think, about 10 weeks with them, teaching them how to code. And at the end of the 10 weeks, each of the young people, they're in a team, they've created an app, a mobile app, and then there's a competition. They have to pitch their app to, like, there's judges, there's a panel of judges, including, they've had in the past heads of some big tech companies, and the winning team gets, I think, something like $10,000, and they get their app basically distributed. So one of the apps that won last year was an app for New York City schools for students to connect in kind of like a virtual world, but to talk about academic stuff, not about social stuff. And so that's that's a great idea, because we're hearing a lot about tech jobs out there, and believe it or not, a lot of folks who are in tech don't have college degrees. They learn how to code, and then they become these great developers, and then they end up being recruited by Google and Facebook and all these other places, and they make pretty good money.
And GenTech is a SYP worksite this summer. So, and those are kind of private sector job placements we want to grow in both the summer youth employment program and the young adult internship program. Because the more we expose young people to other career opportunities, I think the more opportunity they will have to enter fields that they never thought they would ever consider. So that's something that I put out there as a way of engaging youth, because you have connections. How can we, maybe this year might be too late, but how can we figure it out collectively, looking for ways to, because the nice thing about both the summer youth employment program and the young adult internship program is that we pay the wages. So it's not a question of an employer picking up money. We just want to give young people opportunity to learn about a profession they may never have opportunity. So go back to your offices, brainstorm, and then maybe this could be discussion for the fall.
But one of the resources we've never tapped is the reports of the nonprofits. I don't believe we've ever asked them, your contractors, to go to their boards and ask them to participate in this. And I think it could be something in the future, especially those nonprofits
That have big,
that's right.
big money
And
boards.
there are thousands of board members, and most of them are in private industry. So I think it's something to think about how to use. I guess a second comment is, in terms of employment, we know that literacy and English are key. And kind of adult literacy programs, some of you have been kind of underfunded and with stepchild for a long time. And I'm wondering if this employment task force recognizes, some people call it soft services. I don't think it's actually speaking English, speaking and reading soft skills, but they're certainly necessary for better paying jobs. And I'm wondering if this will be considered as part of the.
There was the first task force meeting, which was last Monday at John Jay. There was a vigorous discussion about this. Because I think you're right. I think that it's lost in the mix.
That's right.
Ira from FEGS made the point emphatically that because there's this tension. The mayor wants to grow the number of better paying jobs. That's a good goal. But the reality is that there's a lot of people in low wage jobs with low literacy skills that no matter what you do, they're not going to magically transform and get a high wage job. But the question is, so literacy is a big part of that. And as you know, we took a huge cut over the years.
I do know that.
Yes, over $10 million dollars, I think. In fact, I think there's a press conference at the Sepsis City Hall today to ask for the council to restore that money.
Right.
So you're absolutely right that, you know, as we try to create these pathways to better wage jobs, we have to accept the reality there are some people stuck in low wage jobs, and how do we get them out of those jobs?
And this is
And
clearly
this
one
is
of
one-
the ways, and, you know, and I think that to the extent we can continue to position those kinds of services
Right.
as employment related, I
Right.
think will.
Not just soft skills.
We actually do, so with the WEA program, two WEA programs, the NCWU and the ICWU, they have a basic skills component in each of them. So at the beginning, when a young person is brought into the program, we tape test them. And we see what they're reading and their math levels. And if they're reading it below, I think it's 9th grade, they're considered basic skills deficient. And the providers who are serving them have to give them the literacy training and to get them up to speed so that they can't go right into an internship or they can't go right into corporate. They got to do the basic skills upgrades first. We do the same thing. So with the young adult internship program, we also tape test them. We don't accept anybody who is reading below a 6th grade level. What we do is we refer them to a program that we created called the Young Adult Literacy Program. That also looks at young people who are 16 to 24 who are reading below 6th grade level, but we help them with literacy skills, and as a carrot kind of like for them to finish, we dangle like an internship at the end. So it's an internship probably in-house, most likely with the nonprofit. We pay a stipend, but we make it a point that they have to get their literacy skills up to speed first before they can go on to get the internship.
But yes, you're right, literacy programs being part of the workforce development strategy, because particularly for immigrants, I'm not sure if I mentioned this at the last board meeting, I attended a briefing at the city council about worker cooperatives. And the Center for Family Life started this workers cooperative around, I think it was cleaning.
Yeah.
And overwhelmingly immigrants. There's no way you can describe it, but it's a low-wage, low-skill job. I mean, that's what it is. But the worker cooperative strategy allowed to take what was a low-wage, low-skill job and make it, it's still a low-skill job, but a higher-wage job. So instead of making $8 an hour, they made $12 an hour, which, you know, substantial boost in pay because you put out the worker profit. I mean, the profit, the profit. And so I think there are different strategies out there that hasn't, I know the council's pushing that actively. I haven't heard that in the task force as well, but I know there's an active effort organized to expand worker cooperatives in the city, because there's going to be a universe of people that they're going to be in low-wage jobs, low-skill jobs, and these are jobs that are essential. That the cleaning jobs, the home health aid jobs, where yes, we need more literacy skills, but how do we also help lift their wages at the same time? So don't be surprised if worker cooperatives begin to enter the dialogue as well.
So I just wanted to, also, you know, one of the things that we're trying to work on, we got the YCC grant, which you guys are partners, part of advisors, is making this connection. I think it's really important that we, for the same reasons that you're talking about literacy, you know, there was a great article in Cranes about kids, not just kids like coming out of CT program, but kids going to Princeton or some other university, quitting and deciding to come to New York and work in the software engineering job. But they also made the argument, you know, like, we don't know what's around the corner. I mean, that's part of the difference about the workforce today is what you can't just learn a skill when you're 18 and make a ton of money. By the time you're 25, they don't need that anymore.
Right, you may be irrelevant.
So, I mean, because I think the great plan is that, you know, you have a skill that you can work and go to college. Most of the kids at City University aren't off to college like a sleepaway. They're going to college and working, and many companies will pay for your college. So I think it's really important to talk to young people about the value is that you have a job that will pay you a good wage while you're going to college. And, you know, that it's really critical that you build your skills so that you'll always be employed for the rest of your life, not just right now while you're hot. I'm out of it, but
No,
keep
lifelong
building your
learning.
skills.
Yeah.
Exactly. And a lot of kids don't necessarily think that. They think, I'm going to get this little certificate, and then I'm set for the next 40 years. And so we've got to really help build that. So I think that's really important part of the conversation, because somehow we've gotten into this college or work, and it's really most of our kids are going to do both.
So can I ask, would it be a useful discussion topic for the fall meeting to sort of brainstorm on strategies to grow the private sector work sites for our youth employment programs? So you can, over the summer, think about that, and some of you work in the private sector, Greg, you know, but you might know of other businesses that you do business with.
Sure.
Because, again, we're providing a paid young person who just needs opportunity to learn what it's like to work, to sort of appreciate teamwork, to show up on time, and perhaps expose them to a career that they never had thought about. So, but I like your idea about the boards of the big nonprofits.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
and
I'm
they-
just thinking about when you said law firms, and we all have them on our boards, and I think it, just, I ask people to take, like your kids, just like you come.
Right, and maybe this is something I can reach out to both, all the umbrella groups, like the Service Council, UNH,
Yeah.
And I think, I
Federation
said
of
that before,
Welfares.
I mean, I think the other city, like the department, we have a big employer engagement strategy for a CTE program, where we're placing several thousand kids each year in the same thing. Like, I mean, some cities have, like, provide a job for a young person
Right.
for the summer, campaigning across, Pencil, Junior Achievement Explorers, all these boards. There's a lot of effort,
Right.
and the board members are crossed over. But if we really had a campaign that was unified, I think.
Right, and this is, Bill, I don't know if you've spoken, if anybody's ever spoken to Kathy Wells, the partnership, I mean, maybe she has so many.
Years ago.
Big,
No, but we're working very closely with
Yeah,
her,
I mean,
and they're
they have
very
so many big
interested.
employers on their board, maybe this is a nice thing, yeah.
So, that's something we can build towards next summer, your idea about having like a big push for summer internships, including in that SYP. Because we have all these programs that are subsidized wage programs, but, we need to maximize the opportunities to work in not-government sites necessarily. So,
As long as we have enough kids from the staff for summer.
that's great,
This is, we're gonna expand the total number
Well,
of slots,
the advocates are talking about creating 100,000 jobs
I know
for
that.
SYP, so then we'll have more than enough kids at the summer camps.
I'm just wondering if there's any, I guess, recent reports in terms of the sense of private businesses, receptivity to whether it's internships or part-time work. What is the trend, and has anybody kind of looked at that?
Have you heard anything now?
No, I mean, so, we have a lot of previous programs that we ran internally for a number of years, and then last year we actually contracted it out, because actually with the idea that some of the nonprofits could tap towards whatever. But the receptivity is, I would say, still pretty low. I mean, there were some investments. Just to give you an idea, we've been fundraising privately for just summer youth employment programs since 2010, 2011. And at one point we had up to $6 million, but since then it's been just around $2 million. So, and this was when we had, a millionaire there. Now, right now we're hoping to get to 2 million, and we're not even quite there yet. So, but we've done a lot of outreach to a lot of different private companies, organizations, foundations, and there's not a lot of receptivity.
That would be a really interesting grad school project. Call 100 businesses and find out what percentage, how many young people they employ, based related to the number of employees that they have.
I mean, talking to just I have a lot of friends in the private sector, and they reach out to the HR, and I mean, you probably know this. The big companies, they're giving out internships, but they're giving it to kids not from New York City,
Children of the
right? Or college students from other states, or relatives of somebody who's on whatever. Somebody who knows somebody is getting those internships, and not necessarily the kids from New York City.
So, and also just to say, like one of the strategies that we try to do is like, they don't know our kids. And so, I mean, part of it, we're fortunate, like we have a 4-year sequence, so we try to get them involved in coming to speak to the kids at the school, doing other kinds of activities. Once they actually get to know the kids, and they usually love them, So I think that's part of it, is like, and you know, probably like a lot of times, once we get companies to lad as a leader, once they've had a great kid, then they come over doing it again. The other thing is that we have an incredible number of small businesses that are like less than 20 people, less than 10 people that work there. So, you know, we go to the Chases and to the Citibanks and people like that, but there's a tremendous number of people that work in these little companies. They're much harder to get all of those smaller companies. But that's where a lot of New Yorkers work.
And I plant the seed, and we can pick it up in the fall meeting, is maybe this could be a campaign of the youth board, youth council for next year, is to really grow the number of private sector work sites for the youth employment program. Because it's about networking, it's really about, you know, people you know who will, so it's not even like, I remember years ago we asked people to write a check, but this is simpler in some ways. It's like we're giving the young person, you know, cultivate a member of the future workforce. And so think about it, we can brainstorm over on the next meeting in September, and then if people feel comfortable with this, then I'll run it by City Hall. But I think it kind of fits in with what the mayor's been talking about the Jobs from Bureaucrats Task Force. And before we go through anything, we have quorum, so we need to adopt the minutes.
Sure. Actually, before we do that, just want to follow up on Tom's comment. You know, I think we've all noticed that once you get to know these young people, you really respect kind of what they can do. I think for many employers, just getting over that hump of understanding that these aren't students that they're doing a favor by, it's actually doing a favor to these companies by having them involved in it. And I think the more we can encourage folks to, through maybe social events, get to know some of these students before they bring them into the workplace. By doing mock interviews, we found a lot of companies are really impressed with the kind of students who come in for Letters for Leaders by doing that training with them. And they come away and go, wow, these people are great. And then once they've had them for the summer, they realize how good they are and how much they've contributed to their workforce. So I think as much as we can continue to reinforce that, that's the way we're going to really get employers on board.
There's one quick point of that. I mean, one of the stigmas of the summer youth employment program, which we're trying to combat, is that big businesses think, well, the young person was put through a lottery. What people don't realize is that, one, in the application, we ask young people to express their interests. What kind of job are they looking for? And two, before we actually place the young person with the job that's selected to the lottery, we try to match them with what they indicated in their application with a job that match that interest. So it's not like where somebody wants to work in, I don't know, in a law firm, and we deliberately put them in a retail. I mean, the problem is that the options of private sector jobs are finite. It's only 30% of the actual placement. So so there is screening. It's not just, we just pick a name out of the hat and you get what you get. And that was the initial reaction I got from Kathy Wild when I met with her almost 10 years ago, because she had a bad experience in the 80s. So it sort of lingered. Well, that's true. But anyway, let's get to the minutes. I'm sorry.
Sure. So we have minutes from the meeting on March 11th. I'd like to take a motion to approve those minutes. If there's any changes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Commissioner, if I could just say one thing about going to the corporations. Mayor Bloomberg was not a great advocate for connecting private corporations with committee of city aides. Prior to Mayor Bloomberg, Mayor Giuliani had a great program that he worked with the Department of Education, where he got millions of dollars and from private corporations, they give this to public schools if they got so many children enrolled in private health insurance. And the grants would be up to as much as $50,000 that a school principal could use in a discretionary way. It wasn't tied into the school's budget, so he or she did not have to follow the guidelines determined by the Department of Education. They wanted to do something for after school or something tutorial or something experimental. The grants were as small as $1,000, as large as $50,000 under Mayor Giuliani. And as soon as Mayor Bloomberg came in, he elected not to.
Was this private money?
It was private money. It was private money that Mayor Giuliani went after. And if you go to Ochia, who worked in the Department of Education, they would be able to give you the information about it. But we help many schools get grants of 20 and 25,000. I had.
Is there anything in writing that you have from that?
Well, OCHIA is a city agency. It works under HRA. Marjorie Cadigan runs the agency under HRA. It's called OCHIA, OCHIA. It's a city agency.
Oh, is it?
Health enrollment, I think so.
Office of.
Oh, health, yeah, something.
Yeah, they used to be under the mayor, but they got put under HRA, and they would have the information. Marjorie Cadigan is the commissioner of that.
We'll look into that.
Yeah.
See, I'm not sure what the decision was, and what, why that decision was made.
Well,
but-
we were very active with them when they did it, so I was familiar with the program. And we thought Mayor Bloomberg, being a corporate man, would extend or expand it. Instead, he disbanded it.
So before we have the final presentation and then new business and adjourn, so as you can tell that my view of the youth council is that we want you to be activists and we want to engage you in the work of the agency. And so that's why we're looking for ways that not just create projects for the sake of creating projects, but create projects that help us do our job. And so the idea of expanding private sector work sites is very much in line with what we want to do as an agency. So Anthony, as many of you know, worked for the other side. He was the advocate for many years, and we co-opted him to be the director of city intergovernmental relations. And one of his duties would be to be the primary liaison with the Youth Board of Youth Council. We have some ideas about other things we want to engage you in, so we'll talk a little bit about that.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. I co-opted him to hire me. But in all fairness, I'm very happy to be here, and it's very exciting to be able to work on these issues again from this side. I think clearly under Commissioner's leadership and this mayor, it is a new day. So and when Bill told me that one of my roles would be to help coordinate the Youth Council, I was very excited as well, because I think we all see that there's much more that we all want to do and can do here. So, and I think we've already discussed some exciting projects like this campaign that I think is very energizing for all of us to work on. So, I had some internal conversations. I've been here for 2 months now with some folks here, Susan, Alan, the commissioner, and others who've been a part of the Youth Council. I've reached out to some of you, and want to talk with you all further about ideas for really deeper engagement. I think really at the end of the day, we want to have even deeper engagement from all of you, so you have a sense of ownership about this Youth Council, and to be part of this body that can help support and promote the work of DYCD. I mean, that's really the goal here. And as the commissioner just said, just to be a little more activist and proactive around that. So, you have in your packets just one attempt at that, and this is where I want some feedback from all of you. We were thinking that moving forward, it would be good to have a clear set of expectations for Youth Board Youth Council members, for all of you who are currently on Youth Board Youth Council, and also as a way for us to recruit new members, because we actually have vacancies on both the Youth Board and Youth Council. So we're thinking that, if we're going to be asking people and asking all of you to continue serving on it, let's be clear about, what we expect of you, what we want of you, to make sure there's a good fit here, right? So, if you want to give me some feedback on this right now, that's great, or we can do it offline afterwards. But the main thing is, we think it makes sense to establish a set of expectations for all these members, and even some expectations on ourselves. And I think you see that the thinking with these meetings moving forward is to be more conversational, have more discussion. We're asking you to come and share your time. We want to hear your ideas, and we're going to consider them and report back to you on how we consider that. So, I think there's many ways to get at deeper engagement, just from how these meetings are run, but also in terms of what we ask all of you to take on and participate in. So, with that, I'd like to open it up. If any of you, in looking at this real quick, want to comment on this, that's great. Or if there's other ideas that you're thinking about how you all can be more engaged and how we can better promote the work of DYCD together, let's hear it. And then actually, when we wrap up discussion, we have a concrete suggestion for all of you about getting involved.
Can I do anything this summer?
In terms of maybe possibly being readers for 2 upcoming RFPs that we have coming up. I'll talk about that in a minute, so, thoughts?
Well, I did say this to you on the phone, but I think it would be great to, in terms of strategic partnerships, I think it would be great to get some other philanthropic leaders, shall we say, Kevin Uptree might have some thoughts about this, but from representatives from places like the New York Community Trust and the Brooklyn Community Foundation, who have a real stake, I think, in this work. So to bring some of those folks to the table so that when the time comes to provide support, they are all up on the issues. So I think that would be adding a couple people from that sector would be great.
We also want to add people from cultural institutions, because that's a big part in the media entertainment world. Because if we're talking about connecting to young people, it's culture and it's media. And so we have I can't remember the number. So part of what I think the discussion for the fall, in addition to sort of finalizing this expectation document, is sort of people's ideas for other nominees to the board. And then we have to vet them through the mayor's office, obviously, but I want to start the conversation, and the best resource about other potential board members, yourselves. Okay, I know the hour is late, so you want to talk about the opportunity to volunteer this summer?
Sure, and please, follow me afterwards with the thoughts and ideas. I'm going to be reaching out to you as well directly. In terms of a concrete opportunity for all of you to get involved, we're going through a process right now to develop the next two RFPs for our out-of-school time programs.
Sonic, actually, Sonic is middle school, so we don't have a name yet for out-of-school time.
Let's get clear here. So there will be one RFP for technical assistance around organizational development for out-of-school time programs. Again, especially with the middle school expansion coming up, there'll be new providers who will be, running new programs, or some providers with experience in increasing how many programs they have. So, as part of our ongoing technical assistance to ensure that programs are quality and managed as well, there will be an RFP to select a technical assistance provider to work with these programs. There'll also be an RFP being issued to be able to evaluate the middle school programs, especially the expansion moving forward. So we'll be looking for an evaluation provider, someone who can evaluate these programs. And OST has had a history of being evaluated so far over the years. So what I'm going to hand out to you is just a timeline, and highlighted in yellow are the specific dates where we will need your participation. So if you are interested, let me know. But in terms of your time commitment, there's a training that our staff does in terms of how do you read proposals, how do you score the proposals, and what have you. That's about 2 hours. And what our people say for each of these RFPs, they're expecting about 10 proposals each. And each proposal takes about 2 hours to kind of review and score and what have you. So we're looking at a commitment of at least 22 hours, for each RFP. Now, if you want to do both, great. If you want to do one, that's fine. But let me hand this out to you, and I'd be happy to talk to any of you further afterwards. And if you are interested, we can connect you and be in touch when the trainings are coming up. The way it falls out is roughly really July and August. There are dates. The dates highlighted in yellow are when we need your time, and we'll get the specific dates we'll know further.
For members that haven't done this before, I just encourage you to consider it, because it's probably the best way to understand what DYCD does and how they make decisions, and how you can have input into that process. So I did it early on when we first started, and it was really informative and useful in addition to for DYCD to have a lot of support.
What days of training?
That's still to be determined. So it would probably happen before those, maybe right around the time when the proposals are being submitted. Definitely before when the programs are being, the proposals are being read.
So the dates that have been highlighted where the actual proposal reviews, they'll probably be the week before the safe bet. So if you have summer vacation plans, we understand that this was a last minute decision, but we want to figure out ways to immediately involve people. And there'll be plenty of other RFPs, so it's not the last one.
So what should I do, just email you?
Yeah, we can talk right afterwards, and or you can email me.
Any questions? So the last item is sort of announcements and new business. I've done all my announcements. Any other announcements you want to make?
So share with each other.
No? So we can adjourn 15 minutes early? Is there anything else? Efficient meeting, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes. Oh my God.
Congratulations.